Hey everyone, so this is the second part of the inducing symptoms video. The first part I posted a couple of weeks ago, but it cut out at the end. I ran out of battery, so I apologise. So this is the second part, and we are now going to look at parental emotional signalling. So this is when the alienating parent can display symptoms of anxiety. So when they're in your company, the alienating parent will feel incredibly anxious because it's out of their control. It's triggering that abandonment anxiety within them. And so when the child returns, there'll be lots of over anxious questioning. So was everything okay? Sort of implying that it wouldn't be. How did you get on? The real underlying subconscious and very subtle questioning around, were you safe? Essentially, that is what the alienated parent is trying to subtly get across to the child, is that you shouldn't be safe there and I need to check in on you. But it's the alienating parent's anxiety, but they put it across to induce those symptoms in the child that they start to think, am I safe? Was I safe? Was it good? Did I enjoy it? So they start to question their own experience, and it distorts their reality. You'll have seen the protest behaviour at handovers with the child kicking and saying they don't want to come with you. What is really happening there is that the alienating parent is giving clear instructions prior to the handover. Like I said, very subtly, these are emotional signals, not overt verbal signals. And what they're doing is saying things like, don't be scared, which what really means is be afraid. So as the child, as that regulatory other that we discussed in the first video, the child knows this. The child knows, okay, so the alienating parent is anxious. That means I should be anxious because we are one, we are merged, we are enmeshed. And therefore, because the alienating parent is feeling anxious, the child then starts to feel anxious, and it's that anxiety that then comes out in those handovers. But it's not really their anxiety, it's their enmeshed anxiety with the alienating parent. So the child's role as that regulatory other just gives more power to the alienator to stop contact because it feeds their belief that there is something to be afraid of. So when they then see the child acting afraid, it confirms their delusion. So then they can to themselves be, I tried, but they don't want to go. And they really believe they don't want to go because that's what they're feeling. And they believe their feelings are fact. And so when they're feeling that, they then see their child who is demonstrating that anxiety. They think that that's a given, that the child is scared of you, so therefore they shouldn't go. So you can see how the reality becomes distorted. And that's a attachment response to a threat. The child is feeling anxious and the parent is feeling anxious, and they know that the parent will only feel anxious if there's a real threat. So you must be the threat because you're the change in the environment. You're the trigger for that anxiety. So you therefore must be the threat. And that's how it is distorted through the lens of the alienator, but equally through the child's lens as that role of regulatory other. There'll also be lots of parental displays of sadness. Please don't go, or I'll be fine, don't worry about me, puppy dog eyes, all that kind of thing. All to make the child feel guilty, and again to trigger that regulatory other response, which is the child then feels that they have to take care of their parent. And I hear it so much that alienated parents are saying that my child feels very anxious when they're away from them. Even when we're having a good time, they will want to ring their parent just to check up on them. And that's not normal child behaviour. That's that role reversal, whereby the child is taking care of the parent's needs. And there's obviously lots of exploitation in that. So a clinging, anxious child, what they're saying to their mum or to their dad, to the alienator, is, I won't leave you. That's what they're saying when they're being clingy with them, is, I won't leave you. So that child is very nurturing, really, of that child's need. The nurturing, reassuring child will also say, I love you most of all. And that helps feed the ego of the alienator. So the child is doing two things. That clinginess is telling the other parent that I will take care of you and I won't leave you and I won't abandon you. And the reassuring nature of that is telling the alienator that they love them more. There'll also be lots of excessive and intrusive contact. There'll be ringing, like I say, the child may sometimes initiate that, so that makes it really hard for you to be able to say no, because it's the right thing to say no, but it puts you in a real difficult position. But saying yes ultimately will just trigger more anxiety, because the alienator will see it as the child being scared of you and therefore will have to come and rescue them. So learning how to handle that distraction is always a good way. Reassuring them, I'm sure the other parent is fine. You know, I definitely would stay away from allowing that communication to happen because of how it will be able to be distorted. Okay, so that's parental emotional signalling. I will cover... Actually, I will do it now. So, attuned and misattuned parental responses. So, a misattuned response is when the child says that they had a good time, the alienating parent cannot align with that response. So, they will go, really? Because that doesn't make sense to them that they would have it, because you're a threat. So how could they have a good time? So there's a very misattuned response. So the child then questions, as that regulatory other, they then go, well, did I have a good time? So then they go, well, no, actually I didn't have that great a time, which is and then the alienating parent will offer a very attuned response, which is, oh, bless you, which matches where the child is at. So it's that very clever manipulation of that misattunement, that conditioning, the wrong response. So the child quickly changes their response and gets an attuned, empathetic response, which feels better for them. So they very quickly learn and get conditioned what the right and wrong responses are. And the final one is, all of this means that their alienating parent can hide behind the child, because essentially it looks to the outside world that it's the child that is rejecting you. It's the child that's kicking off and saying, I don't want to go to them, I hate them, I'm scared of them, they've done this, they've done that, when actually that is all coming from the alienating parent. But it's a lot of professionals struggle to see that. But it's important that you know that, because when you're going through this, that rejection from your own children for no reason can feel incredibly painful. And obviously it's incredibly painful, but understanding that actually they're not rejecting you in the slightest. They're having a very natural response to their attachment systems being manipulated. And like I say, you understanding that means that you can take off that personal layer and focus on the child. This is all about the child. This is all about helping them to stay in reality and removing some of those layers of distortion, because now you know what they are. So I hope you found that really helpful. It's a horrible and complex position to be in, especially when you know more than the professionals, which is incredibly frustrating, because they don't want to hear it from you. They think that you're a know-it-all or that you're arrogant, which fits in with some of the narrative that your ex may be saying as well. So it's hard to know how to speak that, put that truth across, really. And if it is something you are struggling with, which, you know, perfectly understandable that you would be, how do you communicate that to the professionals and other people? do get in touch. Feel free to book in for a free session, a free 20-minute call with me. Happy to have that. We do have our Get Court Ready program as well, which looks at the language that you can use and how you can rewrite the narrative, how you can change this in the court process, and also how you can support your child through this as well. So like I say, do get in touch. I will pop the link in the description below. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.